Good morning. Welcome to St. Stephen's. I'm excited that you can be with us today. We're doing an experiment this summer in which we are just finding our way through this gospel story and trying to get a sense of the bigger picture, what it is that is happening in these stories. One of the things that I love about reading the Gospels is that there is this big story, that there is way more here than we tend to fixate on, particularly as we get this sort of little weekly episodic view of Jesus and how Jesus's ministry works. So each week we've been going through because there are some common themes in these stories, even as we've moved from Mark into John. Slipped in through the gospel last week. And now we're still seeing some of the common themes. Themes about power and authority. Themes about relationships and our participation in this stuff. And also including time away. So all of those are sort of present themes going through the Gospels, this part of the Gospels. So today, we're continuing in John. So what we had last week was the feeding of the multitudes. And it ended with Jesus fed all these people. Then he went away, all by himself. And the disciples got in a boat and they left. Jesus told them to go, I'll catch up to you. Meanwhile, they're in the boat and it starts storming and Jesus comes walking on the water, which freaks them out. And it ends with this great moment, just this sort of, this like wonderfully cinematic moment, but it's deep, in which at the moment that they ask Jesus to come into the boat, they go from being scared and terrified that there's this dude walking on water to realizing it's Jesus, to realizing that he should be in the boat with them. They arrive at the other side. Now, if you know anything, like if we know anything about sailing, if we know anything about like being in the world, there's like you'd think they would be able to see the shore. There's this sort of sense in which that this is wonderfully metaphorical, but it's also sort of deeply persuasive. That sort of sense of being so overwhelmed and so consumed by the thinking, by the theories, by the fear, by all of the challenges that we lose sight of where we are, right? And right about the time you get some clarity, oh, here we are, right? It's not just a great image. It's so fitting. It's so fitting because we actually can experience a little bit of that in our own lives. So this time we have chapter 6, verses 24 to 35. So when the crowd saw that neither Jesus nor his disciples were there, they themselves got into the boats and went to Capernaum looking for Jesus. When they found him on the other side of the sea, they said to him, Rabbi, when did you come here? Jesus answered them, Very truly I tell you, you are looking for me, not because you saw signs, but because you ate your fill of the loaves. Do not work for the food that perishes, but for the food that endures for eternal life, which the Son of Man will give you. For it is on him that God the Father has set his seal. Then they said to him, What must we do to perform the works of God? Jesus answered them, This is the work of God, that you believe in him who he has sent. So they said to him, What sign are you going to give us then, so that we may see it and believe you? What work are you performing? Our ancestors ate the manna in the wilderness. As it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat. Then Jesus said to them, Very truly, I tell you, it was not Moses who gave you the bread from heaven, but it is my Father who gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is that which comes down from heaven and gives life to the world." They said to him, "Sir, give us this bread always." Jesus said to them, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty." Now this story, this part of the story begins with, again, a very cinematic moment that I think is, could be, because it's something that could be wonderfully captured visually. Just this, imagine the people arriving in, the field where they last saw Jesus. And they're looking around and he's not there. So you have this crowd, big crowd of people, thousands of people, looking in this crowd, in this field, or in this, grotto, or wherever, right? And he's not there. And so they have to figure out, okay, what do we do? Where are we supposed to go? And somehow they figure out that he's gone to Capernaum. So they sort of they deduce where he's gone somehow. And they catch up, which is a weird sort of experience. It's sort of visually has this kind of, I just imagine, it's something that's easy to imagine, easy to see happen on a screen more than you could see it happen in your own life, right? More than this would make sense in reality. But it has this wonderful tension that I think we have an easier time being sympathetic with these crowds than we do with Jesus here. Because we have this yearning, this searching, this not knowing where to go, not knowing what to do-ness to us. We have a really easy time jumping into the crowd in this story. So I want to start by saying we have a crowd bias in this moment. Because that's who we see ourselves at sometimes. And so it has that sort of sensation of where do we go? I don't even know what to do. And so they feel the need to catch up to Jesus. And when they arrive, Jesus confronts them based on what they're looking for. Because they ask, well, when did you get here? What are you doing here? You're supposed to be back here. Now, why would they ask that question? Why are they worried about where he is? Why are they fixated on this thing? It's not because they actually are caring about Jesus or following him. In fact, they're not thinking of themselves as followers of Jesus. Jesus gave them something yesterday that they now want again today. That's a different relationship from someone who's following Jesus, right? They're looking for another hit. They're like drug addicts. They got addicted yesterday, and they want another hit today. This is the thing, right? There's a way in which this relationship is, they're showing a transactional relationship. Even if Jesus isn't giving, even if they're not buying something from Jesus, they want to receive something from Jesus. It's not reciprocal. It's not a relationship. It's receiving. It's getting something, right? So he responds by saying, "You're not looking for me. Because of the signs. You're not looking for me because of the miracle, because of what you saw and what that reveals about the God." That's the sort of purpose of the word, talking about signs here. It's the signs of God's work in our world. You're looking for me because you ate the bread. And so he then talks about the bread. Then they said to him, "What must we do to perform the works of God?" Okay. I mean, it's a reasonable question. They want to get involved. Okay. All right. Jesus says, this is the work of God, that you believe in him who he has sent. So come with me. Don't sit in that field expecting me to stay in the field. Come do work with me. Follow me. It's a different way of relating to another person, let alone to the mission of God. So they said, what sign are you going to give us then? Right? Meaning, why should we trust you? Why are you the one? Why is this important for us to follow you? Which is kind of funny when he just did all that stuff. But they're looking at authority. And they appeal to Moses they appeal to the manna in the wilderness. And if you remember this story, that it's from Exodus 16, when the people were hungry and Moses went up the mountain and appealed to God to feed the people, and God promised to feed the people and did. And so there's this appeal to this thing, and they're saying to him, go be Moses. And Jesus reminds them that Moses didn't do it. God did it. You've got this all wrong. There's something so fundamental to you and to your life, and you've got it all wrong. So one of the things that I think we struggle with is this vision in which it's so easy to see their confusion. They're so easy to see what they're trying to do here, and we can get lost in the theology. We can get lost in the sort of verbal display here. And we can get lost a little bit in what Jesus says. Sometimes, particularly in John, he's sort of giving us these big statements that kind of confuse us. But the vision, and if we recall last week and several weeks before that, this conversation is not about what Jesus himself is doing, even as Jesus is himself demonstrating great power. To use John's language, demonstrating signs, showing and revealing signs over and over again. Right? There's something like crazy about this. And yet, in the midst of all of these signs, all of this power, all of these defying of expectations and expanding and going beyond them that Jesus keeps doing, the challenge that we have is to not respond like the crowds do here, which is to constantly see things as being about Jesus, to constantly see things as being about the things that Jesus does for us, that Jesus does all the work. There's an image he uses, and not here. It's an image that he uses when Jesus talks about a yoke. He says, your burden, I essentially saying, I have a means of helping you deal with your burdens. It's to carry my yoke, which is kind of a funny way of saying, I'm going to take things off of your hands by making you do manual labor, right? A yoke is the thing you put on an ox, but yokes are yoked with another. And so it is a shared relationship. So two oxen, two beasts of burden pull the cart that does the work. So there's this vision of Jesus saying, my yoke, when he says my yoke is light, he's saying we can do this together. This thing that you're carrying, we can do together. There's I invite us into that same space, that same headspace today, This constant storyline that we've been exploring all summer has involved this mindset that, again, is so alien to us. It's alien to us as much as it was to them 2,000 years ago. That it's not about us as individuals, and it's not about Jesus as an individual. That there's a project that we're all a part of. There's this common thing we're doing, and what Jesus does, what Jesus allows us to do when we see him, is that we're able to see within him the work of God. In the same way that within Moses, the people could see God's action because of Moses. They could see the work. It wasn't that Moses did it, and it didn't happen because Moses wanted it. It happened because God wanted it. And Moses is the means by which they could see it lived out. In the same way, we have a similar relationship as followers of Jesus, that this is the means by which we can see God, that we can know God, that we can be in God's presence, is through Jesus. And as we discovered before, through being Jesus for one another. So there's this idea then that I want to end with. That this isn't something that God does for hanging around us, that this isn't really a transactional thing. This is about being in relationship, being in community, being with other people, and trying to eschew that idea that the crowd was demonstrating in this, that they were coming to Jesus not because Jesus was inviting them to participate in something big, but because they wanted seconds. They wanted to eat seconds. They wanted to eat more bread. They want more bread. That's what they're asking for. We're hungry. We're hungry for something. Feed us. Feed us, Jesus. And Jesus is saying, did you not see? This isn't about you eating. It's about you feeding other people. This is how our work works. This is the vision that God is offering us. So this week I hope and pray that you are seeing the ways in which you are able to participate in a bigger feast, that you can see your role in the giant potluck that is life. That you have a spot at this table with all these other people, and that we can be blessed by your presence at it. I hope you have a great week, and may God's blessing be upon you. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Be well, my friends.